I saw one time a newer songbook that took, "O sinner, seek the Lord," but it wasn't "repent of all your sin." They watered it down. I thought, what else are you going to do with your sin except repent from it? It's interesting, all that. So I forgot the exact verbiage, but I remember that. So, all right, let's see. Exodus tonight, 15. Exodus 15. 14, actually. Exodus chapter 14. And I will say that Sunday evening, the Lord worked it out where people could get here and get home okay, safe. But we did have our Super Bowl party, and it went very well. I think we had close to probably 30 people, and an excellent message, I thought, from Brother Jim Stupp, Jess Tregay's dad, and just a good time of fellowship, and it's exactly what we wanted, I think, to happen, and I was very pleased with the organization and the people that put that all together, and I didn't have to do that, and it worked out very well. So it was just a good time, and I like to see our teens, and I like to see our 20s, and I like to see that giving them things to do in the name of the Lord and all that, and so I was very, very pleased with that evening. All right, Exodus chapter 14. And we've looked at the plagues of Egypt. We've looked at the Passover lamb last time. And before we move on to the giving of the law, I wanted to make sure that we covered the actual crossing of the Red Sea. So let me just, by way of review, just so you're familiar with the 10 plagues and how they, I mention this from time to time, and how they do associate with the tribulation. So, you could look at this in several ways, devotionally and doctrinally, this whole book of Exodus and Pharaoh and all that. But there are many things that we've looked at and taught that will happen again in the future, all right, during the tribulation. So the first plague was the water turned into blood in Exodus 7. And in Revelation chapter 8, Revelation chapter 16, with the trumpets and the vials, we see the rivers and the seas turn to blood. And so that will be seen again at the time of God unleashing his wrath. Okay. Number 2, we saw the frogs, Exodus chapter 8. And the only thing that I will say, which is interesting, is Revelation chapter 16, verse 13. The unclean spirits come out like frogs. They're associated with frogs, the unclean spirits in the satanic trinity, and that whole thing. So frogs. All right. Number 3 was lice. Number 4 was flies. Number 5 was the murrain, the disease that killed the beast. Now, these things are not specifically mentioned in the book of Revelation or the tribulation. These 3, I would say, are probably a safe bet of assumption. All right? Lice, flies, disease, because the beasts certainly are going to die, and I'm sure that there are going to be lice and flies, as one of, but I'm just saying they're not specifically mentioned in Revelation, but you could probably see where they may show up. Plague number 6 were the boils. And Revelation chapter 16, people that partook of the mark of the beast and follow the Antichrist are said to have noisome and grievous sores, okay, like boils and things like that. So it's another plague that will show up. The 7th was, Exodus chapter 9, was hail, thunder, fire, hailstones of fire. In Revelation 8 with the trumpets, Revelation chapter 16 with the vials, you have hail, fire, blood, about 100 pounds each, a talent or so. So again, you're looking at a repeat there. Number 8 were the locusts. Again, interestingly enough, Revelation chapter 9, out of the bottomless pit come locusts. These are supernatural locusts. They're not normal locusts, but I'm not so sure the ones in Exodus were necessarily normal locusts either, all right? Because Exodus and the Psalms told us that even God, when he brought forth the flies, it was diverse or different kinds of flies. So I'm sure the locusts were no easy thing either. Plague number 9, Exodus chapter 10, was darkness upon the land of Egypt. One of the final things that you'll see in the book of Revelation will be the Antichrist's kingdom is said to be full of darkness. It's one of the final things that God pours out, this darkness upon the seat or the kingdom of the Antichrist. Okay, and then of course the 10th plague was that the firstborn was killed, and I guess you could say that Satan's firstborn, the Antichrist, will be cast into the lake of fire. You know what I mean? So done away with. But those are the 10 plagues and how they closely associate with the book of Revelation when you're talking about the seals, the trumpets, the vials, and even the personages. Okay, so that is just something that I wanted to review since we were finished with the different plagues of Egypt. Now, all of that leading up to the actual Exodus. The Exodus, appropriately named the Exodus for this reason. They exited from the land of Egypt. And so that's what we're going to look at in chapter 14 tonight. And as they were done with the Passover, God had told them to put the blood on the doorposts, and the destroyer came by and killed the firstborn. Any homes that had not been covered with the blood, they were killed. And then the Egyptians said, "Get out of here," told the Israelites, "Leave." Pharaoh said, "Leave." So away they go. Now we get to chapter 14, and they're going to have a change of heart. And it says, verse 1, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Before it shall ye encamp by the sea." This is where he wants them to set up camp. Pi-hahiroth means mouth of gorges. And so there's going to be a narrow type passage where they're going to come, and they're going to come to the sea, and there's no turning back once they do that. And they're going to be kind of like trapped in, okay? And Pharaoh's army pursuing them, okay? So it's not like if they would turn back. So verse number 3 says, "For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land, and the wilderness hath shut them in." This is the mouth of gorges and all that. So I believe God wanted to them to take the bait. And he brings the children of Israel out and brings them in a situation where they look like they're trapped. No place to go. And the Egyptians took the bait. Let's go get them. Okay? And so that he allures, God uses this to allure them in. And then he says in verse number 4, which we've seen back and forth, Pharaoh hardening his heart, God hardening the heart, and it says, "For I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord." And they did so. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled. And the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people, and they said, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" Well, I guess maybe the 10 plagues. Maybe the death of your firstborn. I mean, why have we done this? How quickly we forget, right? And they realized, in one way, they were probably so spoiled, realizing, man, life was a lot easier. You mean I've got to cook my own food? You mean I've got to do my own wash? You mean I've got to do my own crops and, the whole thing? I don't have we got to build our own pyramids. Where'd they go? Our servants are gone, a couple million at least. So why have we done this? In verse 6 it says, and he, Pharaoh, made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt and captains over every one of them. In 600 chosen chariots, 600 probably of the best men, the best captains, and every last one of them would be lost. Isn't that something? Every last one of them. They won't return home. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with a high hand, the high hand of God. And they're pursuing them, I'm sure, just like Satan doesn't give up. Once somebody, remember the Passover lamb and the blood of the lamb on the doorpost and a picture of somebody's salvation. Satan fights for our souls. He fights hard. He doesn't want people to get saved. And when they do get saved, he doesn't just stop. He doesn't leave them alone. He mounts an attack and pursues them. All right? So, because his next best thing is, first is keep them lost. The next best thing is to keep them away from serving the Lord, or to be a bad testimony or whatever. So he's going to mount an attack and pursue and try to bring them back into bondage. That's what they're trying to do. Remember, they're going to get these children of Israel to bring them back into bondage. They've been redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Once we get saved, the devil mounts an attack and says, I want you back in bondage. I don't care if you're saved. I want you back in bondage. All right? And many, many Christians do that. Even though they get saved, they just turn back and go back into the bondage that they came from, okay, for whatever reason. All right, so anyway, the devil's going to pursue them. Verse number 9, but the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army. He overtook them, encamping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth before Baal-zephon. All right, so he catches up with them because they had nowhere to go. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid, and the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. All right, so they see the enemy approaching, and they're afraid, and they did the right thing. They cried out unto the Lord. They knew what they had to do is their only choice. And they said unto Moses, now they start to get upset, because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. All right, so again, we are creatures of comfort, and we don't want problems. And they say, they go back. They did tell him initially, Moses, leave us alone. You're making life miserable for us. And then they saw the plagues and the miracles of God and the high hand of God, and then they said, okay, we'll go. And now things just aren't going like they thought, a smooth exodus. And now they say, why didn't you just leave us alone? Okay? Things are getting tough. Now they want to go back into the world. Now, believe it or not, this does happen to believers, to Christians. They get saved, they get in church, they get excited, they grow, and then they're persecuted, or something bad happens to them, or they suffer, and they go, what am I putting up with this for? I'm going back to Egypt where I had it good. And, of course, our recollection, right? We had it good, did we? I ain't really. Are you sure about that? So, and that's when, but I've seen it, you've seen it, we've all seen that happen, okay? Where they quit. Where's so-and-so? He quit. Left. He's gone. One wrong word, And you just never know what's going to set somebody off. I've seen people come to church for months and a couple years, and somebody says something, and that's it. It's like, that's it. I'm out of here. I'll never come back again. And they go back into Egypt. Now, I don't understand that, because really that's our option. Our option is to go back to Egypt. It's to quit this Christianity stuff because, you got offended. And some people get offended very easily. And frankly, sometimes we say stupid stuff to people. Can you relate to that? Sometimes we say stupid stuff to people. And then they go, I can't believe you said that. I'm leaving. So, and I've seen it over and over. But, it's no excuse. No excuse. But they're saying, we could have died in it. What are we doing? Why did you do this? Leave us alone, Moses. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Now, this verse is great because basically he says, stop, just stand still. In other words, now shut up, right? Just stay where you are. Watch. And he says, see the salvation of the Lord, which, by the way, salvation means the act of being saved, and I mean he's going to save them physically, certainly. All right, so and it's important that before we go forward, we have to stand still sometimes and see what the Lord is going to do. Unless we can stand by faith, we can never walk by faith. You got to stand before you walk, right? You got to stand up. Little kid crawls. Little kid tries to stand. Little wobbly, falls down. Before they can walk, they have to stand. And before a Christian can walk in the faith, they need to be able to stand in the faith. Stand still. Just stop. Stay where you are. Stand up. Get your legs under you. Watch what the Lord will do, and then you can walk forward some in the faith. And that's what you just stand still. Samuel told Saul before he was going to be king, I remember him saying specifically, stand still, stop, stand still, and hear the word of the Lord. Stand still. And I think it was David with Goliath said, stand still and see the salvation. See God's salvation. Stand still, everybody. Hang on. Hold on. Don't run away. Don't panic. But just wait and see what God can do. So, and he promises them, you won't see these people anymore. Just stand and watch what the Lord will do. From verse 14, he says, the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And that's the shut your mouth kind of a thing, Stand still and be quiet. All right? Stand still. Hush up now. Hold your peace. Because he says, the Lord shall fight for you. You know what? We need to learn this lesson. The Bible says, David said, before he killed Goliath, the battle is the Lord's. He said the battle is the Lord's. And this is what Moses is saying here. The Lord shall fight for you. So when we get upset and we're ready to bail and we're annoyed, stand still. And be quiet and let the Lord fight for you. Okay? There's a great lesson in this. We're murmuring, we're complaining, we're ready to bail, we had it better, why would we do this? Shh. Stand still. Be quiet. Watch the Lord fight. And I think we would just be so much better off in our Christian walk, in our church life even, if we just said nothing. And said, Lord, I'm gonna give this to you. I want you to take care of this. You know what? It's so much better than trying to fight ourselves or getting all wound up or running away or calling each other names or... Listen, if you're around people long enough, somebody's going to say something to you that you don't like. You're going to say something to somebody that they don't like. Okay? I know this because I get to speak lots of words all the time, and the multitude of words are not foolishness. I'm going to say something that's going to bug somebody. Hey, could you just stand still? I'm just human. Give me another shot, all right? And that's what we have to do. We're just human. We're just people. Find out what the motive is. Find out what the motive is. You know how many times I've preached and people have said, "Are you talking about, was that about me?" No, I know it really wasn't. Unless I go and say to them, "Hey, Joe, can I tell that story? Haven't I done that to you? Joe, can I tell that story?" Okay. I'm real careful with that. Now, I tell stories about a lot of people. But I'm real careful about that. No, I wasn't talking about you. But I guess if the shoe fits, right? So, and I'm not saying they were angry, upset. I'm not saying that. But it's just interesting that they'll say, "What are you talking about? What about me?" Or they'll say, "Were you talking about Joe? Were you talking about Joe?" No, I wasn't talking about Joe. So, anyway, somebody's going to say something. Somebody's going to do something that we're not going to like. And I would just say, why don't we stand still, just keep quiet, see how things go, and see what the Lord does, okay? That's just, I think, good advice. That's what he does here. Watch the Lord fight for you. Watch the Lord fight for you. I was talking to a guy today, a good friend of mine, and he was telling me about somebody that has been a thorn in my flesh. I said, "You know what, man?" I said, the Lord's going to take care of that. The Lord's going to take care of that, one way or the other. The Lord's going to take care of that. The thorn in my flesh is not directly to me. It's a family member of mine. So I say, I want to punch him out. But I say, Lord's going to take care. Stand still, zip it, and the Lord's going to fight. Lord's going to take. I'm confident God's going to take care of that. He's going to take care of it, one way or the other. And I'm not even praying evil or anything like that. I'm just saying, Lord's going to take care of it. Now, stand still, be quiet. Watch the Lord fight for you. Verse 15, the Lord said unto Moses, "Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward." This is interesting, God's perspective on this. God's perspective of a crying to, complaining, murmuring, crying like a baby, or things that maybe aren't significant. God, they were mean to me. Come on. What are you crying about? God said, what are they crying about? And he says, speak that they move forward. If we're not moving forward, right? We're going to be standing still until we do, but we also could be moving backward. That's not a good thing. And if we don't stand still, we're probably going to be moving backward rather quickly. All right? God can't do anything with people who won't move forward, and I've learned this over the years. I've learned it. You know what I want? I want every one of our church members to be a strong Christian. I want to be a strong Christian. I want us all to move forward. Not everyone's going to. I see there's people that float in and out of here. I want to say, where you been, man? You know, you can't move forward unless you're here more. But I say, after a while, there's nothing more I can do. They're only going to go for. The bottom line is, God can't do anything with somebody who will not move forward. And I get that all the time. They like cycle back through. Oh, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. Oh, we gotta sit down with you. We gotta. God can't do anything with people who won't move forward. This experience for me has been great in this way. Unless somebody's like unsaved or looking for a church, I don't ask anybody to come to church. I don't beg people to stay. And I don't say to them, where were you? I encourage them. Missed you. Hey, notice you weren't there. Missed you. I'm not going to harass anybody. Not going to do it. If you won't move forward, God won't use it. God won't use you. God won't bless it. God won't grow you if you refuse to move forward. So I just say, what happens, happens. You gotta have people willing to want to grow, willing to want to be saved, willing to want to be discipled, all those things, to be consistent. So we have the Lord's response to this whole thing. What are they crying about? So he says to Moses in verse 16, but lift thou up thy rod, remember that, the rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. Now, one thing that I don't know is Moses' perspective on this thing. Moses is leading them, comes to the sea. What are we going to do now? The Egyptians he's probably thinking that, well, we'll go around, we'll walk up here, a little further up that way and this way, and we'll end up going around and into the land. But they're pursuing. We're trapped. What's he got to be thinking? What are we going to do? I wonder if he even thought that God would divide the waters to cross on dry land. That's something else, I'll tell you that. But he tells him, lift up the rod, stretch it forward. Verse 17, and I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts and upon his chariots and upon his horsemen. You know what life is all about, folks? Honoring God. And do you see what he said here about that? I will get me honor. If he has to drown them all, he'll get honor. If that's the way it goes, he'll get honor. You know, every knee shall what? Every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. He'll get it. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. That's what it's all about. When I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. Remember, you've got the angel of the Lord here, the angel of God, in this pillar of a cloud that moved, and they followed. And then at this point now says, don't worry, I got your back. He goes up behind the camp of Israel and stands in between the Egyptians and the Israelites. God's got our back. You move forward, and he's got your back. Remember Lot's wife, right? I wonder, move forward, he's got your back. The Bible puts it this way. He's called your rearward. That word doesn't show up but a handful of times in scriptures. It's spelled like reward, rearward. He's got your backside. He's your rearward. He's got your backside. Verse number 20, it says, and it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them. I love this. But gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night. The workings of the Lord are darkness to the world, and yet light to the Christian. Isn't that something? Light to God's people. The same sea, the Red Sea, the same sea that became salvation to some was condemnation to others. One light, one dark. One crossed, one drowned. And what a person does with Jesus Christ will either save or condemn them. That's something life is all about. What you do with Jesus Christ. What's life all about? What you do with Jesus Christ. Isn't that such a simple answer? Every individual. Your life is about what you do with Jesus Christ. And that pillar, darkness to the lost, yet light to the saved. It's an amazing thing. But it's what you do with it. It's what you do with him. In 21, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind. He used many of the plagues by the strong east wind. All that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. It's a blast of his nostrils, according to chapter 15, verse 8. That strong east wind. Blast of his nostrils. He just blew it. That's how powerful God is. Let me just blow this with a blast on my nostrils and see what happens. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Now, this is one of those things that you just can't wait to see replayed. This had to be something to see. Imagine the Red Sea. Just opens up probably for miles and miles. I don't know how wide. And water. The wall was water. The wall was water. We're going to read. It was congealed. It was like he made it like Jell-O. That's something. A miracle, true miracle. And this is called, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, it's called the baptism of Israel. 1 Corinthians 10, 1 and 2. They were all baptized into the sea and under the sea. And why is it called a baptism? Think about it. They just weren't wet, but they were under the water. They were immersed under the water, but it wasn't touching them. Isn't that wild? It was their baptism, picture of their salvation, their baptism, their crossing over. which I'm sure many of you know from big picture. Baptism that is a broad term in the Bible, and there are 7 of those things. This is one of them. Moses' baptism of Moses. This is one of 7. They're not all the same thing. When you hear that word, don't think it's what you think it is. You know, baptism, we think of believers' baptism, you know. Well, there's baptism of the Holy Ghost. He fills you. Baptism of fire, which a lot of people get confused. I don't want to be immersed in fire, do you? It's not a good thing. Not a good thing. So anyway, there's 7. This is one of them. This is one of the baptisms, according to 1 Corinthians 10, 1 and 2. Verse 23 in all, by the way, I say that because all 7 aren't for everybody. They're not all for you need to worry about getting saved. You need to worry about water baptism as a symbol of that. That's all you got to worry about. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. They all went in. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians. Yeah, he troubled them all right. And he took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And they were finally figuring out that this was an act of God. And now listen, really, how stubborn and hard-hearted. You see the sea divide, and the people go through, and you're going to pursue them? I mean, if I were an Israelite, wouldn't you kind of be going through like, is that water staying out? You know, I hope it doesn't collapse on me. Let alone an Egyptian. Dummies. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand over the sea, and the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea. After them there remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. Now there's a reason for that. That God shows Israel, look, this is what happens. You go against me. Shows them dead. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. Now, is it Cecil B. DeMille that wrote the movie or produced the movie? Okay, in his movie with Charlton Heston, Pharaoh returns and is alive. Not so. And you can see what we read in Exodus 14, 17, and 18. I'm going to get me honor upon Pharaoh and his chariots. I'm going to get Pharaoh too. And then when in chapter 15 is a song of Moses. And it says in verse 1:15:1, he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. No doubt a reference to, if you're going to talk about one horse and one rider. And then 15:19, listen to this. 15:19 says, For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and with his horsemen into the sea. You can't get any plainer than this. And the Lord brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. So it would appear to me that Pharaoh drowned. Look at Psalms 136 while we're looking at this. Psalms 136. And verse 11 says, and brought out Israel from among them, for his mercy endureth forever, with a strong hand and with a stretched out arm, for his mercy endureth forever. To him which divided the Red Sea into parts, for his mercy endureth forever, and made Israel to pass through the midst of it, for his mercy endureth forever, but overthrew Pharaoh and his host in the Red Sea, for his mercy endureth forever. He overthrew Pharaoh and his host in the Red Sea. All right, so God ends, that's a chapter ended right there in the lives of the Israelites. You'll see him again no more. Book closed. End of an era. End of an empire. End of Pharaoh. Okay, and by the way, there are some pharaohs that have, people, there's speculation on which pharaoh this was. There are pharaohs that mysteriously died. That are recorded like that. They died suddenly or died mysteriously or whatever. I'm sure that they didn't say he died. They're not going to tell you that he died in the Red Sea, and all that. But so you have that really climactic event that ends the 10 plagues, the Passover, the death of the firstborn, and now the crossing of the Red Sea. And what an impact that must have had, everything about that, with the pillar, the cloudy pillar that moved, that you followed, or it came behind you. The waters just, and then the waters going back over the enemy. The impact that had to have with these people, and just in awe of what the Lord did, and that would be a continual, struggle with God and, this nation, hard-hearted, stiff-necked, and all that. But, all right, so let me just conclude there.